There we go. Well, Jumbo trainers, thank you for joining us. This is our second IP class demo. My name is Regina Garaby, and I want to welcome all of you who showed up to be our students today, and a big hello to everyone who is watching this replay video. We hope this series gives you some new ideas and some inspiration and really ways to strengthen your own training and classes, because we all learn best together. So for the purposes of our time and for being online, we've asked each guest trainer to cover the 3 key points of every chapter, give some examples and use the workbook in some way. So after I introduce our guest trainer, Angie Charlebois, she's going to begin teaching you, acting as if we are the students attending her class. At the end, you'll have an opportunity to ask questions, and the trainer Angie may highlight some training notes on what or why she taught the class or other things she might do as well. So we're going to begin this series with Chapter 2, Beliefs, and here today to teach this class is Angie Charlebois. So Angie is a certified professional coach. She's living in the Yukon. She's working internationally. So really, because I live in Florida and Angie lives in the Yukon, we're basically as opposite as we can get from each other across North America. However, our hearts and spirits are very close. I'm excited to see her on video today. So besides being an international coach and trainer, she's also been a trailblazer since 2013. And since then, it's really become an essential part of her coaching and her healing work. Angie has been huge in our community, and she's helped launch many trainers with her positive and practical marketing tips. I have seen her laser coach people on how to express what it is they do, and I can tell you she is brilliant. And I'm excited that she's here today. She has spoken at several Train the Trainer conferences. She co-leads the Trailblazer Mastermind course. And I'm excited because she's going to be sharing one of her healing modalities at Train the Trainer in Santa Fe in just a few weeks as one of the breakout speakers. So I am going to turn it over to you, Angie, and we're all yours.
Thank you, and good morning. It's still morning in the Yukon, and thanks for having me. I'm really excited. This is my favorite chapter of all of the IP content. And if I'm doing a live group and I have more time, then I really get into this one because I find beliefs really permeate all of the content that Mike created. So I'm going to jump right into it. And I've simplified this presentation for the purpose of time, and I've really stayed true to the course content as much as possible, not integrating too much what I normally do. But I'm happy to talk about that afterwards, as Regina said. So I'm going to go straight into sharing my screen with you. It's a PowerPoint presentation, and because we have folks online, I'm going to be reading the PowerPoints to you, just so that everybody gets the same access to the content. So here we go. And I have a hard time pressing a button and talking at the same time. So I called my version of this chapter Beliefs, Invisible, Powerful, and Changeable. And I think that becomes obvious throughout. Invisible, I say, because your beliefs hide behind your opinions about life, about people, about happiness, about success, about wealth, about all of it. Anything that we have the capacity to think about, which is anything, could be colored or influenced without our even knowing, because of our beliefs behind sort of the beliefs that stand behind our mindset. And what's interesting and also a challenge is that sometimes it's so easy to spot the beliefs that others have and see how they're limiting themselves and creating an artificial barrier between what they say they want and what they're actually able to achieve. And that's often the belief that we see and that the others are unable to see themselves. And so I always find that kind of curious because not everyone appreciates having it pointed out to them. as I've noticed. So I'm very careful about that. And the other piece about this is once we're aware that we have this belief operating in the background, that it becomes visible, then we can work to kind of push beyond it and kind of challenge it as we go about life. So that's the hopeful news that I hope you'll get throughout this. So what do you see here? You're coming into an airport. There's a huge lineup. What are you thinking right away? Are you groaning? Are you thinking, God, all these people are in the way. Some of them are going to have these complicated passports. It's going to take forever. Are you thinking, God, I'm always late. Why can't I be better at being on time? I'm so disorganized. Look, if I had just gotten up earlier, I could have beat this whole rush. Oh, this is going to be a really long wait. I might even miss my flight. God, nothing ever goes my way. Why didn't I put the shampoo in the bag? I wonder if I have time to move the shampoo from my carry-on to my bag. Oh, I should have done what my mom said, which was carry just a carry-on and not have a bag. Oh, if you think about your natural responses to challenging situations such as a crowded airport, or maybe even a job interview, or even whether or not to apply for the job to begin with, your beliefs hide behind your opinions about life, people, and happiness, about success, about opportunities, about it all. And observing what we're thinking in times such as these, as well as in the happy times, can often lend a little bit of help in identifying what's standing in the way for us, what might be coloring how we see the world. So your beliefs color how you see the world, but not the world itself. So in my classes, I usually have a pair of sunglasses for everybody to use. And so these, I don't know if you can tell, but they have some glitter and sparkle on them. And so when I look at the screen and when I look out at the world, and the world I'm looking at right now is sunny, snowy mountains. It's really beautiful here today. I actually see a hazy, kind of murky color on top of it. Now the mountains haven't changed and the snow hasn't changed and it's still sunny out, but now it's hazy. It's a little bit more cloudy. But if I wear these long enough, I'll forget that I'm wearing them, and I'll forget that the mountains are actually crisp and clear and beautiful and white, and I'll see them as gray and hazy. And I may forget for long enough that I forget completely what the mountains look like because I'm wearing glasses for so long. You'll continue to see the glasses on my face and observe how I'm being limited, but I'll stop seeing it myself. If you're wearing the glasses, I don't know how this looks for you, but if you're wearing the glasses, then I'll see your glasses on you. And I might be able to point out that you have something obstructing your view and how you see the world. But I may still not be aware of my own, which is kind of a fun irony, but also a bit challenging. So our ability to observe that reality in the most sense, the world in the most sense, is how it is. It is just an entity. It is not out to get us. It is not skewed in some way for the neighbors and not for us. It is not tainted with a subjective support or challenge specifically. It's how we view that is our challenge or our blessing. And I really try to point that out to my children, because often it'll be a conflict at home, and it'll be such and such is unfair. It's not fair that he gets this and I get that. It's not fair that my teacher wants this and Jackson doesn't have homework. It's unfair, and there's this perception of the personalization of the experience. And the truth is, the experience is itself an entity, its own manifestation, and how we perceive its effect on us is often, and my children hear this daily, is often just a reflection of how we're feeling and how we're interpreting based on our belief. So my kids often feel that, or believe that, life is unfair. And I think that's hopefully a stage they're growing out of, but it's a perception. It's not their actual reality external to them. So what we decide is the limit to what is possible is based on what we believe. So we all know people who believe that the simplest things are impossible for them to achieve, that leaving a bad marriage or reaching a milestone of owning their own home or moving to the city of their dreams is impossible. And we look at them and we think there's nothing actually going on for them that would prevent them. They're healthy, they're mobile, they have ambitions, they have dreams. I wonder why they feel that there's something that is a limitation for them. And often it's their belief in their own ability to make change and their belief in the world that supports them. And because they have this limited belief, it affects their thinking, which means that they're not having big thoughts become things in the way that they want. They have the thoughts become things in the way that they don't want because their thinking is colored by their beliefs. There's a neat example of fleas being put in a jar and having a lid put on the jar. And we all know that fleas, or most of us know that fleas can jump like 6 feet high, 8 feet high. Height is no challenge to a flea. But if you put a flea in a jar for long enough, actually I have a jar right here, and you put a lid on it, they will learn that there's an artificial limit. Well, there's a real limit initially to how high they can jump. And even with the lid removed, they will only jump to the height of the imposed limit. And unfortunately, some folks grow up with very limiting beliefs about what's possible and about what they're capable of. So our job, I believe, as Infinite Possibilities trainer, and certainly my life goal, is to help people see that the limitations that they have are based on changeable beliefs. So the other nice example that I like to use, and it's certainly part of the content in our training, is the example of the 4-minute mile. Now, I'm not a runner, or I'm not a great runner, but for years, people had a limitation on how quickly they could run a mile. And the first person to break that barrier, which was actually called, it was called the 4-minute mile barrier, or the 4-minute barrier, was Roger Bannister. And he actually, once he passed that, or once he came just under the 4-minute mile at like 3 minutes, 59 seconds and 6 milliseconds or something, just under, all of a sudden, the belief in the running community changed so dramatically that it became possible in everyone's mind to run a mile in less than 4 minutes. And then all of a sudden, everybody was breaking it. Well, not people like me, but people who were in the running community were. And since 1954, the average time of some of the top runners is as much as 17 seconds less than 4 minutes, which is pretty amazing. So the power of the mind to overcome once beliefs are aligned with thought and action is pretty fascinating to me. So this is taken right from the workbook. And I'm sorry I'm going quickly. I just really want to make sure we have time for everything. Your beliefs create thoughts that create experience that perpetuate and reinforce your beliefs. So it's a cycle. It's a circle. Then your beliefs only get stronger. And the reason they only get stronger is because then you see the manifestation out there and you go, see, I knew I was right. Nothing ever goes my way. Look at that. Again, something else went wrong in my life. Or if you're someone like me, my belief is that I only meet great people. So my belief is everybody's fantastic. I meet really great people. I always find a way to learn and connect with people. So when I enter a plane, for example, or I go into a grocery store, my thoughts, which is the next row down, or the next part of the circle, are, I'm going to find a way to be friendly to everybody I see. I'm going to smile. I'm going to help a mom if she needs help bagging her groceries. I'm going to find a reason to connect with people over something. And every single time I go anywhere, I have fantastic connections. I sit on the plane right beside somebody who just read the book I read, and we have a great talk. I'm at the grocery store, and I run into someone I haven't seen in a long time, and we have a great reconnection, and they give me a business lead. Or I meet someone who gives me a great hint on something gluten-free that I didn't know before. And so my life experiences are very, very positive when it comes to people that I meet and I run into in my everyday outside of the house life. And so my life experiences then reinforce my belief that there are some really, really great people in the world and that I meet them. I consider myself very blessed that I have very few stories of meeting strangers that aren't extremely kind. And I could tell you hours of stories to reinforce my belief because I've had so many of them all over the world. And so if your beliefs are positive and empowering, this cycle is very helpful, as I've demonstrated. But when your beliefs are negative and limiting, you have to work to change the cycle of those beliefs, or every one of your experiences and your thoughts will actually perpetuate and create the cycle that is not serving you. Beliefs are extremely powerful. I know that in your last chapter of Thoughts Become Things, you talked about how powerful thoughts are, but your beliefs actually allow you or disallow you to think certain thoughts. If your beliefs limit you in some way, as thinking of, for example, people in our community of trainers and infinite possibilities practitioners could be called maybe snowflakes or flaky or dreamers or I don't know, some other potentially negative. I don't think any of those words are negative, but we could be discredited in some way by the very realistic, serious, negative folks. And that's fine. That's a choice. But my belief is that if we don't allow ourselves to be limited by our belief that it has to be realistic and possible, and we have to understand how in order to allow ourselves to believe it, I do think we expand what's possible. And that's how I try to live my life. And I think that's what we try to encourage people in this community, is to not be limited by the how, not to have to understand all of the mechanics behind manifestation or behind kindness even, or behind a positive thinking, but just to be in the place where we allow all of our thoughts to bloom and flourish. And when they don't in some area of our life, we know that because the manifestation isn't happening. So I could be extremely positive when it comes to my marriage, let's say, and still have tons of financial difficulty in another area. And if that doesn't seem to be improving, and I can't seem to make it shift, then I have to look at the experience that I'm having and go, okay, so what's going on? What am I thinking about? And then what's my root belief about this? And I think that money is a really good indicator in some ways of what our belief system is about worthiness, about who's good and who's not good, and what am I worth, and what am I entitled to, and what are the conditions upon which I'm allowed to manifest certain things. And I think that it's an indicator. There are other areas of our life that can be indicators as well. Considering that we have thousands of thoughts every single day, and that they're influenced by our beliefs, and it could be everything from how we feel about the world, whether it's a safe world or an unsafe world, how we feel about strangers, how we feel about our work, our deadlines, our relationships, all of it is influenced. And I think that a lot of us have the opportunity to take a look at what we're thinking and see which beliefs are serving us and which are holding us back. And I'd like you to think about, and maybe even write it down, if you brought a journal and a pen, or a paper and a pen, how would you describe, or how do you respond when I ask you to describe life? If I said, how's life? And I meant it. Would you say that it's easy or that it's hard? Would you say it's so busy that you barely have time to do what you love? Or would you say that you have all the time in the world and that you have a very fulfilled life? Would you say that your life is filled with people who are a blessing to you? Or is it filled with people who are dramatic and need a lot of attention and are demanding? Really think about that. How do you describe life? And in the workbook, there's a whole section, and I'll show you a little bit later here, but there's a whole section that asks you on page 20, 15. What are your thoughts about life, about yourself, about your body? Oh, the body's an interesting one too. People are very hard on their bodies. And considering what a miracle we are, I find it quite curious that we'll pick on the inner thighs not having a gap, but we forget that there's a miracle inside of us that keeps us going day in, day out, that manages all of these complex functions. How do you describe your body? Is that description filled with positive or negative beliefs about yourself? Now we'll switch to money again, because I think this is an interesting one. How would you spend $10,000? How would you spend $10,000? I've taken you off share screen here. If I gave you $10,000 right now, what are the top 3 things you would do with that money? Because that's a powerful indicator. Travel. What's another one that you would do, Laura? What's the next one?
I don't have a lot of.
Oh.
I would definitely invest in things for my grandchildren here,
Mm-hmm.
the young ones. Maybe catch up on a little bit of debt I've incurred from past travels. But traveling and investing in retreats or educational opportunities would definitely be at the high end.
That's wonderful. I see donate to charity, another city break with my wife, another motorcycle. I think how we choose more time with my family, how we choose to spend money often is an indicator of what's important to us and what we value. And I also think that on occasion, given the chance to spend, sorry, I just want to get back to see you all. There we go. Given the chance to spend $10,000, we often internally have a little quick bargaining, like what's the right answer? And I wonder, did anybody go through that? Like, is it selfish for me to say, I'm going to travel instead? Should I donate to the animal shelter because I feel like something, that, did anyone go through that little bargaining? Like, is it okay to say I want to travel? And yeah?
Yeah. Is it $10,000 that I just get to spend, or is it $10,000 that is for my family, like that Matt and I have to decide like where to spend, because we're in a partnership. But I did think that, like, because if it's for me, I'm probably going to spend it on education and retreats and further training. And with my family, I might share it in a different way.
What if you got to spend it any way you wanted and you could choose to tell your family or not? Does that change anything?
Yes, because I know exactly how just I would spend it versus if it was money that we were going to use together as a family. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the reason I ask this is because I find money is a strong agitator. I mean, in a good way or in a negative way, money can be an agitator. So anybody who hesitated and said, would it be selfish if I answer out loud right now, or if I type in the comments that I'm going to buy something for myself? If you had that little twinge, or if you had this like pang of, oh my gosh, I don't know how I would spend that, and what does that say about me? All of these little kind of pseudo responses that are automatic are a bit of an indicator about where you're at with your belief system about money. And it's only one thing. We could be in a restaurant and I offer to buy you a glass of wine, and you could go through that going, is she hitting on me? What is her thinking about alcohol? What does this mean? You could go through all of the baggage about anyone in any situation. And I'm inviting you to think about what are those little twinges that happen because they're indicators of your beliefs. And they could be fantastic beliefs and you go, oh yay, okay, I feel aligned here. Or they could be beliefs that are holding you back. And I'm going to go back to the share screen because there's a little bit more on this. Okay, so there's the money. And one thing that I practiced doing as a tip, and I encouraged some of my students to do, was, and it was more than $10,000, but every single day I asked them to write in a journal, and I had them put the date, and then beside I had them put $1,000 in a column. And then next to that column, I had them put what they would spend that $1,000 on. So let's say day one, you have $1,000 and you say, okay, I've always wanted a, I don't know, maybe some exotic tree for your yard. Okay. Something that you would never spend that kind of money on because, wow, $1,000 for a tree. Day two, you have $2,000 to spend. What would you spend it on? Oh, actually, I want to redo my deck a little bit and I want a fancier railing. Okay. You do your deck. Day three, 3,000. Day four, 4,000. Day five, 5,000. Day six. All the way. So I did it for, I think I got to 56 days. By day 56, having $56,000 to spend was a little bit difficult for me. It really really challenged me. And it wasn't because I think I need that kind of money. I don't think I need that kind of money, but it challenged me to push beyond my barriers of belief about money, because there are people literally in this world who easily have that kind of money. And it's not that we have to aspire to it. It's how to stretch what's possible, how to stretch the belief about money. And so by day 56, gosh, I had already bought my dad 2 houses, because, I had spent, paid off his mortgage on day 40. And then on day 56, I bought him a little cabin. And, by the time you really start thinking about it, it's like, okay, I had a boat, I had a motorcycle, I had, everything I really wanted. And the feelings I was generating while I was doing that were really positive, juicy, manifesting energy. But I actually had to push beyond what my limitations were about what's okay for me to have. Because by day 56 with $56,000, and I wasn't even done, I was like, oh my gosh, am I really allowed to have all that? And that was the benefit of the exercise. And it was kind of fun too, but it was the benefit of the exercise because I got to donate everything I wanted to charity. I got to expand, what I thought was indulgent for myself. Doesn't mean I'm actually going to spend money like that if I have it, but it was really a beneficial exercise in expanding what I believe I deserve, what I believe I'm entitled to, what I believe I would enjoy. So I invite you to try that. So how do you respond to a big bill or a surprise expense? That's another indication as to your mindset related to money or related to stress or worthiness or mindset. There's so much that shows up when we have a big bill. One response is, it's a good thing I'm rich. Oh, these are supposed to autoplay here. I attract money easily. I always find solutions. That's a positive one. Money is just a form of energy. I earn more than enough to cover my needs and wants. I have the power to increase my income level and my sources of income. I imagine adding zeros to the bill and pretend it's a check, not a bill. I look for ways to offer more value and increase my price for my services. So all of these are a bit of a switch. They're a way to have a new belief system around a challenge when it comes to finances. All of these could be converted to love, romantic relationships, a new position in your organization. And the wonderful thing about these beliefs is you don't actually have to believe them yet. You can have them operating in your system, trying to get them installed. And the way that you actually go about making a link and a connection to them is by practicing saying them and then taking steps, actually taking actions based on your thoughts and beliefs, whether they're still natural or not, and do it anyway. So if I want to do the second one, I attract money easily, and I want that to be my belief, and I want to be thinking that way all the time. Every time I find a dime or a quarter, I don't go, oh, that's just a dime. Damn, I actually need $1,000. You say, hey, here's evidence that I attract money really easily. If you want to work on one of the other points, I have the power to increase my income level and my sources of income. So instead of thinking, oh gosh, I'm already so busy with my job, I don't know how I would ever do that, my boss would never give me a raise, you think, what am I really good at? What could I do outside of my work that would benefit people? And maybe you do gardening on the side. Maybe you create a niche market for Mother's Day baskets. Maybe you start a detailing business on weekends because you love fancy cars anyway. So why not? You're right in the market. And you start finding ways, you start taking action, and it doesn't have to be painful. It can be aligned with what you already love to do. And then next thing you know, your belief that you earn money easily and more easily than you did before becomes instilled, and you have the positive cycle going. I'm worth it. That last one didn't show up. So I'm worth it is, so you get a big bill and you're still worth it. So it's something that you needed and it's for you, and that's important. So here in front of us, I have a check for $1 million. What would you do with this? So this kind of money sometimes really creates a lot of bargaining. And I'll give you an example. 3 weeks ago, I was at a soccer tournament with my daughter, and there were 2 draw boxes, one for a flight, an Air North ticket, and it was a segment of my flight from the Yukon to Vancouver that I hadn't actually purchased yet to go to the conference in Santa Fe. And I hadn't bought it yet because it hadn't gone on sale, and I was waiting because the price was quite high for some reason. I don't know if it was Mother's Day or why, but it was quite high, and I thought, I'll just wait. And so there was a draw box for the Air North flight. And there was another draw box for a 50-50. And it was all a fundraiser for the soccer team, another soccer team in another community. But it was a 50-50, so you never know how much money you're going to buy. And I thought, or going to win. So I thought, all right, I'll buy some tickets. So I went to the bank, got some cash, came back and bought tickets. And the moment I was buying the tickets, I knew for sure I was winning that Air North flight. I just believed it. I believed that this was absolutely the perfect solution to my travel, not dilemma. I mean, I would have paid more, but I didn't want to. I knew it was a solution. So I had to be there for the draw at 3 p.m. sharp. So I just finished watching my daughter's game, like up high in the stands in another part of the building. And I came running and I had my 2 sets of tickets out. And I thought, okay, I'm going to win this. And so they read the numbers and I didn't win. And I realized, oh shoot, that was for the other draw. And I had the wrong tickets out anyway. I'm looking at the wrong string of tickets, the wrong string of numbers. So I stopped and I thought, okay, I'm just going to take a deep breath here. I know this ticket's mine. And pulled out the numbers. And I just realized you guys can't see me. I'm talking with my hands like a French woman and you guys have no idea what I'm doing. And so I pulled out the other string of tickets and they called for the Air North flight and I won. And I thought, oh yay, I won. But I didn't think, oh my God, I won. I thought, of course I won. I knew I was winning. I believed I would win. I'd shown up. I'd done everything. I absolutely knew it was mine. So I went up to the front. I was like, thank you. And they remembered me because I liked my purse and I made a personal connection because everybody I meet is really friendly. And all that was manifesting that whole time. I was already in gratitude. I was already in Santa Fe anyway. And I had already bought that part of the ticket. And so I said, oh, great. And by the way, I think I was looking at the wrong tickets. Can you tell me, what did you draw before? And they said, oh, we drew for the 50-50. And we're going to call the number again soon because the person hasn't claimed it. And I said, well, just in case it's me, do you mind reading that off? And they read it off and it was my tickets. So nobody likes me at that place anymore. But I won both. So I won $297 and I won a return flight for any time. I can book within 2 hours. I can go wherever. I'm going to Vancouver so I can go to Santa Fe though. And I thought, and they said, wow, how did you do that? And I said, I manifested it. So I could have sold so much coaching in that moment, you guys. You have no idea because the whole building, like there were hundreds of people waiting for this draw from all over the Yukon. They were like, what? How did you do that? And I said, I believed I could. And I believed I would. So that evening, so I had gone to my esthetician's earlier that day and she's a real supporter of the animal shelter. I made a big donation because they're really struggling. Then I went and I won this money. So I told all the kids who on the soccer team that I would donate the money back to the animal shelter. But feeling so abundant, guess what I did? I bought lottery tickets that day. I never buy lottery tickets because I felt that if I had the power to believe that I could achieve these two small, well, really I only wanted the one, then what else was possible? Because I'd been limiting myself. I mean, I still don't ever really buy lottery tickets. So I have $65 worth of lottery tickets, which is a lot for me, waiting for me to check them. I haven't even checked the numbers yet. Because the truth is I feel like a winner and I feel extremely abundant regardless. So I feel blessed. But that extra bigger number, why don't I buy lottery tickets? There's some part of me that believes that there's a difference to manifesting that than manifesting a flight. That was very easy for me to believe that I could have. And yet, lottery maybe not. So it's just an interesting observation. So when I ask you, what would you do with $1 million? Does anything else come up for you that is an indicator of your worthiness or your ability? What did your responses to money tell you about your beliefs? What does your response to a friend getting a divorce tell you about your beliefs, about relationships to the opposite sex? What does walking by a homeless person on the street tell you about your beliefs? The money one, though, are you worthy? Is that a question you ask yourself? Is money a source of stress for me? Do I have to earn it in order to get it? Do I have to share it in order to be allowed to have it? Is it fair for me to have a lot of it? Is it immoral to want it? A lot of people have that going on. Are those who have it greedy? Do I have a judgment about people who are wealthy? Does that make me not want to connect with them and be one of them because of how they are? Our beliefs can move us forward in life, or they can hold us back. I think we all know that. The good news is that our beliefs are changeable. You can change your beliefs by changing your thoughts, your words, and actions. And this is really fantastic news, because even if you're not 100% sure what your beliefs are, you can take very, very focused, what's the word I'm looking for here? Self-talk is what I'm trying to say, and external talk and thoughts that you have about the world, and you can shift them moment by moment and encounter by encounter. So in the friendly exercise, if you're not as friendly as I am, and you don't, you'd like to see the world maybe the way I do, and you'd like to meet the great people that I meet, then you have the opportunity to shift how you think about people, and to say hello first, and to smile, and to maybe go out of your way to sit a little closer to somebody who you might potentially have a connection with, and be open to it. With money, you can choose to think thoughts of abundance. You can say things like, I'm so grateful for all that I have, and I know that money flows easily to me. And you can find ways to appreciate what you have and to make some extra income. I've repeated this slide about the circle because I really want to reinforce that it is all interconnected. What we think and believe and experience are part of a formula, and you have the opportunity to shift that. And if there's anything standing in your way to achieving that, because you have a limiting belief and you don't know how to shake it, and you're sure it's bothering you, and you can blame your mother, and you can go for counseling, and you can do everything, but you still have got it, that money's hard to get, or people are mean, or the world is unsafe, or whatever that is, you can do one of the three things that I do in workshops. And so one example is I have people either write on a balloon, like blow up a balloon, write on it, and then pop it, or have them do these tiny little slips of paper, and they fill in any limiting belief that they have, like I'm not worthy, or I'm ugly, or I can't lose weight, or all men are, users or dangerous or abusive, or whatever is going on for that person. And I have them fill the balloon with these little slips of paper, blow it up, and with every breath, I have them empty from their cells and from every part of their body that feeling, that belief, that thought, and I have them purge it into the balloon. And so then they either pop it or they do something with the balloon. So there's a couple of options there. The other one is the Alka-Seltzer tablet, and where you write a limiting belief on the Alka-Seltzer tab with a pencil. And lots of our trainers do this. And then you watch it dissolve, and you actually go through a bit of a process, a bit of a metamorphosis of expunging your beliefs as you watch the Alka-Seltzer tablet dissolve, and the belief dissolves. I'm big on fire, and because where I live, it's easy to do a fire outside. Almost all my workshops have sort of an outdoor space. I do a cleansing fire where I have them write all of their limiting beliefs and things they want to let go of, and we have a little ceremonial fire. We burn things. And so on this little photo, it says, an easy yet potent ritual which can help clear unwanted emotional patterns and negative thoughts, and I'd add to that beliefs. Those are some of the tools that I've used. From page 22 to 24 in the workbook, student workbook, there are 3 steps for installing new beliefs. One is you choose beliefs that serve you. So never mind what you learned at church, never mind what you learned with your parents, never mind any of that may or may not be benefiting you. You can actually choose beliefs. So if you wanted to choose a belief which was, I have everything I need to become a published author. So that empowering belief could serve you in actually writing your book. You can claim that belief through your thoughts and words. So this example that I have online is about people, but I've given a lot of those examples. So I'll use one about achieving something. Excuse me. So every day I wake up and I think, I'm a writer. every day I actually believe in my soul and start to incorporate into my soul that I'm a writer. I think I'm a writer. I speak as though I'm a writer. I then, number 3, act as if my beliefs are true every day, which means I would carry a notebook so that I could capture any good ideas I have for my book. I might start fantasizing and visualizing about the cover of my book. I might start reading stories of success of people who've been published after a long time of being unpublished. I might connect with friends who are writers. I might join a writing group. There's so many things I would do in alignment with my belief that I have everything I need to become a published writer. You could do that in any aspect of your life. And you could do that small belief by small belief by small belief. And it could be anything in your life that you want to create a belief that serves you. So it could be really small. It could be, I'm open to love. After a painful divorce, I'm open to love. Every day I wake up and I think thoughts of love, and I write an affirmation about being willing to be open to love. And I talk about the opposite sex or my own gender or whatever it is, whoever you want to attract to love, in a positive way. As opposed to, love is such a heartache. I always attract losers, whatever that is. You switch how you speak. And then every day you grow, expecting to meet really wonderful people. And you might join a dating site, or there's so many actions you can take. Now, to close off, I ended up searching online 10 powerful beliefs of incredibly successful people. This is just one of those online articles. And under each one of these points, there was a bit of an example of how you could do that. And I'm just going to read them off, and I want you to think about some of the themes that come up based on having done Thoughts Become Things chapter with Kim and doing the beliefs chapter with me. Listen to this. Number 1, so powerful beliefs of incredibly successful people. They believe that they are in charge of their lives. Number 2, they believe in their own abilities and potential. Number 3, they believe a lot of opportunity is out there. Number 4, they believe that strategy is important, but execution is critical. Number 5, they believe they will win through hard work and perseverance. Number 6, they believe they can make tomorrow better. Number 7, they believe in doing things no one else is willing to do. Number 8, they believe people are catalysts, not barriers to success. They believe in uplifting others. And finally, number 10, they believe in giving back. What comes to mind when you hear that list? What do you think? What does it remind you of? Or what are some of the themes you're picking up on? I don't know if I can unmute you guys. No. Does anyone have any thoughts about that? I'm just going to read the chat here. Somebody says, me and some people I work with. Oh. Hi, Caroline. Regina, I don't know if I have unmuting powers.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, good. The thought that you have to work hard in order to have an inflow of money or anything that you want is contradictory to my belief that the universe is fully abundant and that we're tapped in with the universe all the time. And it goes to the heart of what your beliefs are. And if you believe you have to work hard in order to be successful, in order to have money, in order to do the things you want to do, then you're going to be working hard all the time forever. And I think the better belief is the universe always provides for me in accordance with my desires.
Mm-hmm. I was a bit challenged with the hard work part, but I will say this, what's shifted for me is the dedicating myself to my goal. I call that hard work. I exchange the hard work part for dedication, because I do believe that there's action that I need to take. I need to play. I need to show up on the field, and I need to do things. And the perseverance piece, which is regardless of the external evidence that it's working, if I'm willing to continue to show up day after day in perseverance and dedication, then so I get what you're saying about the hard work, because I think hard work, makes us think that it's something we don't love to do. It makes it feel like it's something that I haven't chosen. But personally, I'm willing to work hard in my in my passion. Does that make it feel better?
No. I understand that point of view, but the limiting belief that I downloaded as a child was you have to work really hard to get anything, to get anywhere. And what I now know is it's about blocks that I have to reaching any goal. And if you believe you have to work hard and you have to keep searching and you have to keep dealing with things, then you'll do that your entire life. And to get beyond that, to open up to, we are all here, part of the universe, and the universe is constantly supplying us with whatever we're open to receive. It's about receiving, and we all have had experiences where we've had a thought about, gee, I'd like X, Y, or Z, and then boom, it manifests. That was not hard work to get to it. It was about not having any blocks to receiving, or our vibration being in alignment with it. That's not hard work. It's about owning absolutely that it's available here now and being one with it. That's my take on it. So
yeah, no, then I hear you. And there are things that I can't explain that have shown up in my life that have nothing to do with how hard I've worked. I get that. And yet there's other aspects that I think I'm not playing a big enough part, so it hasn't shown up, because I actually have to sit down and write the book. I actually have to do some of the stuff. And my resistance to doing it is not necessarily the hard work in doing it. It's the belief that what I have to say is meaningful or will impact somebody. So there's other baggage. Right. But one of the things that I did think showed up quite a bit was positive expectation in that list. Did anyone notice that it was filled with, positive expectation, that you believe that that being here and doing what you're doing actually makes a difference, and that there will be, it can improve and it will improve. That was one thing that really struck me, because that seems, in a way, potentially airy-fairy and unrealistic, but this is kind of some of the mainstream beliefs.
Can you show that list again?
Yeah, I will. I think that would be better than seeing my face.
No, definitely not.
No, for this purpose. So even number one, they believe they're in charge of their lives. So the thoughts become things aspect, I think, is touched on there. They believe in their own abilities and potential, I think is a little bit about that as well. The other last point was there's some action involved. Execution is critical. Perseverance. And that's where I want to just encourage that whether the beliefs are perfectly installed or not, that taking action every day. One of our fellow trainers, I don't know if I'll get his personal story very exactly right, but Craig Wetter was was actually the lead on a team of engineers. I'll put this back up again in a second, but he was part of a team of engineers that was tasked with creating the touch screen for Apple. Regina, do you know the story? Craig's story? Okay. So I might get some of the details a little bit off, but years ago, before it was possible to have a touch screen, before that technology existed, before we knew or could believe that it could be done, Craig's team was hired to do it. So imagine what it would take in your own sort of mindset to go, okay, I have to figure out how to do this, and I don't even know what this is, and I don't even know if we can. So his team, I think it took them 3 or 4 years to figure out how to do something that Apple had already promised the market. So that's a bit of a mind shift. Like, how do you wake up every day and go, okay, guys, let's, make it happen. I don't know what we're doing, but let's just keep trying. But the only thing that would be the juice in your cup or the fuel in your tank would be the belief that it must be possible. Someone's already promised it to the world. We just got to make it happen now. Who the heck knows? They probably said hell. Who the heck knows how we're going to do it? But we're going to show up every day in positive expectation that we're going to make strides in the direction of a technology that improves things. Let's try. we're engineers, we should be able to figure this out. But the engineers had to get out of, in a way, they're thinking that we're going to take what's tested and trusted and true and already developed, and they're going to blow all those kind of limitations out of the way and go, we have to come up with something that's impossible to do, but we're going to say it's possible, and therefore we're going to do it. So the belief that they could do the impossible was something that they had to psych up every day. And I'd love to ask Craig, and I actually have a call scheduled with him to ask him, what was your morning pep rally? What did you guys say to each other for 3 years or 4 years, every single morning when you're like, oh my God, we hate Steve Jobs. Why the hell did he promise us? How are we going to do it? But they probably said something more positive because they got it done. So it's kind of a fascinating way to view complete shift in mindset. And I mean, there's examples of this all over the place. And once we believe that, sorry, one more little share screen. Once we believe that we are not humans having a spiritual experience, but rather spiritual beings having a human experience, all of a sudden we can blow those limitations out of the water. And I reread the chapter in the actual Infinite Possibilities book on beliefs this week. And that's a big premise. Some of the truths of being are that we absolutely are more than just humans here having spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings, which means we're not constrained by a lot of the rules if we choose not to be. Now we can play in to the rules, and we can choose to take the green pill and not the red pill as in the Matrix, or we can choose whatever the colors were. But as soon as we decide that we get to write the script and truly live the script that we want. I mean, even just being online with you right now from where I live and for the kind of career I had before I became a trainer and a coach, that's actually just choosing. That's believing that, I mean, I had a very, very different and boring career prior to this, which I won't tell you about because it's boring. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, wow, you know, it is possible. When I first reached out to Regina and said, hey, I'd like to edit the trainer's manual and I'd like to help. I feel really blessed to be part of this community. How can I participate? That was an absolute huge leap of faith and a belief that maybe there's a chance that this cool woman who did this amazing thing and Mike Dooley, who's so great, might want me in their circle. That took a lot. That was big. But the minute I did that, the minute I leaped beyond what I believed about myself into that next level, oh, there's Greg. Hi, Greg. Everything opened up. And that's what I want us to bring to our students. That's what I want to bring to rooms where I'm in, is this idea that you are more than your immediate experience. And I think the chapter on beliefs is dedicated to that. And that's my condensed version without the really cool fluffy stuff that I have to do in person. But thank you for listening.
Yay!
Thanks.
All right. So I have some notes that I want to just go over that I took. But before I do that, I want to see, does anybody who's on the line or on video joining us, do you have any questions for Angie? And then while that's coming through, Angie, I also would love for you to share, any trainer notes specific that you have about either what you did and or what you would do if this was a longer or in-person class.
Yeah. I have one cool juicy one I will share, and I'll send you guys the link to the actual document. Hi, Greg. Nice to see you.
Hi, Angie. I'm sorry I missed your talk. I can't wait to see the video, but I just wanted to pop in and say hi.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, no, good.
Chalky White. I feel funny at saying that.
Thank you. It's a British thing, you see. Just my understanding is I'm going to be delivering the course for the first time in a week on Saturday actually, and I understood that this was effectively about a 45-minute session, and we've been listening to you. Really glad I've been listening to you about this because it's been very helpful. But for probably just over 50 minutes now, and you've just told me this is the condensed version, which has got me a little bit worried if I'm trying to deliver this in 45 minutes now.
Well, if you're doing a one-day workshop and you're trying to fit in all of the sections, then you do have to do this condensed. When I'm doing a one-day workshop, I I make the belief section longer and I cut elsewhere.
Okay.
But that's my, because in the belief section, I'm able to pull in some of the spiritual stuff that happens, like when we go through the section on faith in the magical universe, I kind of blend in to the belief section sometimes. And the meaning of life, I kind of pull in a little bit too. So I'm not saying to do that. I'm saying with my longer belief section, it allows me to share stories about, like if you go to the, why are we really here? I can pull that into my belief because I'm able to share that. And then I'm able to ask them some of those questions about what do you believe about why you're here? What do you believe about it? So to me, that's how I get around that. Now don't go changing that, what you're planning to do here for the week before. And my part of my beliefs section involves a sheet, which I'll tell you about, which is what I wanted to say earlier. So I have a pre-done sheet. No, it's in the documents actually, but I'll send it again. And on one side of the column, it says, I've always wanted to, one of my dreams is, so it's a bunch of little prompting sentence starters. And then I get them to write down what some of those things are. And I have about 7 on the sheet, like just different ways to start things so that they can say, they feel comfortable starting to share. I've always wanted to write a book. I always thought I would travel to blah, blah, blah. And my dream of blah, blah, blah. So I get them started. And then the second half of the sheet is but, however, and so then I get them to say why they haven't. Because if they haven't, there's a reason why, and they often know it. But I'm scared to go alone. But I never felt I was good enough. But it's cost too much money. But. So as soon as they fill that out, which believe me, they can fill out very well, because we all know what we want. And we all know why we don't have it. And I could do that sheet myself every day practically too. And by doing that, it identifies my goals and dreams. And then on the other side, it identifies my limiting beliefs. So then now I can have a conversation about limiting beliefs and go, okay, everybody, does anybody want to share one of those? Like, what's one of your buts? One of my buts is I'm scared of, I'm this, that, whatever it is. Now we're having a conversation about limiting beliefs. And I didn't have to say, what are your limiting beliefs about money? And they're like, I'm sorry, what? Yeah. So now it's like, and then we show up, and I'll tell you a little secret. Almost everybody I do this with, and I do it in every class, one of the things boils down to, because I'll ask why, boils down to worthiness, whether or not they feel like they can receive that. So when we talk about receiving, it's that, do you allow yourself to receive that? I have that failing. People try to pay me and I go, no, it's fine. I'm like, why? Why am I saying no to money? Like, what the hell's wrong with me? Like, actually, thank you. And so that's a challenge I have this year. And Regina laughs at me because she knows that I do this all the time. I turn away a lot of money because I love what I do. So where's my belief about, if I love what I do, I don't deserve to get paid because I'm already getting paid by love? Like, what the hell does that mean? Like, I made that up. I created that connection that's not grounded in reality. That's my own thing. So that's one of my challenges that I work on. Actually, I just called it a challenge. That's one of my opportunities. There you go. See, got to catch yourself. Catch. So for you, I would say, if you already know what you're saying about, I'm just going to finish that last piece. So then on the beliefs, did you attend a live training?
I did the Playing the Matrix, just the Playing the Matrix live. I haven't done the rest of it live. It's all been online. Okay. So there's this really neat thing that I do with my group that I learned from Angie when we did the live training. And it's this 3-way, it's positive gossip, basically. So it's a 3-way conversation. So Regina, let's say you one of your goals is to travel all through Egypt, and then you're going to write a travel book, and then you'd like to open an Egypt-themed bed and breakfast. And you tell me all that by filling out your form. I've always wanted to travel to Egypt. I want to write a book, blah, 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 whatever. Regina and I would be in a conversation in this group setting. You would be listening as a bystander, eavesdropping, if you will. And we would be having a very dynamic conversation that's completely fabricated, based though on your goals and dreams that you've identified. So that sheet really helps me when I do the role play. So Regina, did you hear Chalky White? He ended up going to Egypt last year. Did you hear that? And so from that trip,
I read about it in his #1 best-selling book that he wrote after.
I know, but
It
the
was
New York
amazing.
Times also covered him because he ended up doing that thing with that charity that he said he always wanted to help.
Oh yeah.
Did you remember him saying that? And so we would have some of this material and we would be talking like this for a good 3 minutes. Now, while we're doing that, trust me, our vibration is through the roof. It is so freaking fun to do this and juicy and really exciting. You're listening and you're hearing your dreams be told to you in this really powerful way. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm starting to believe it because it's a new way of hearing it. It's entering through a whole new source. It's not just coming out yourself, it's entering you. And your vibration is rising. It is so incredibly fun and juicy. So I do that in the course in the belief section because I'm trying to raise the emotions. I'm trying to get the vibration up. And so now we're thinking and feeling and vibrating and believing at a whole other level. So that's why mine's longer. To be honest, that's one of the reasons mine is longer is because I pull all this in. And then now TBT, so going back to Thoughts Become Things section is like, oh yeah, that's awesome. Like people all of a sudden get it. They're like, okay, I can feel that. I know what that's going to be like. I'm hearing my own dream manifested.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So don't be worried.
So
Don't be
Angie,
worried.
It's all perfect as it is. And then after you teach it the first time, you'll have things that you want to shift and add. Angie's done it a couple times.
so
Well, and
Angie,
I'll be, yeah, Bruce, hang on one sec, Bruce. And I'll be really honest. I'm honest with everybody about this. I rewrite my presentation every single time. I never deliver it twice the same way, and which is really ridiculous because my efficiency would be fantastic, but I enjoy recreating it. I get juiced up in the recreation. Now, it's not good for business. If you can get one that you love, minor tweaks, and not recreate it, your cost ratio, whatever, is going to be better. Bruce?
Well, first to answer what you just said, I really think it's important to tweak it each time because I've done it now, I guess, about 3 times. I'm getting ready for the 4th. And I use a PowerPoint. So, of course, one reason I wanted to ask you about is will this be under documents, under the site Infinite Possibilities, or where will I find it? Your presentation, your PowerPoint.
It will, well, Angie, that's if you want to give people your PowerPoint.
Oh, this one up. Yeah, absolutely. You guys can have this one. You can do whatever you like with it.
There were some great slides there I'd like to use.
What we'll do is we will put it, we already just created a brand new section on the website for the demonstration classes. So the first one is up there and we'll put the second one and we'll add the PowerPoint. So it's up on the resources section that only trainers have access to on the TUT website. Mm-hmm. Yep. We just put it up this week, the new section.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So I'm absolutely happy to share. I don't have a reference for that list.
No.
But I'll find it and I can add the reference because I stole that list right off something. So don't do that without crediting. And then the other thing is every one of those statements on those slides actually comes from the 3 point. Oh, it's in the presenter's guide. It comes from, like, I really wanted to be as true as I could be to the presenter's guide. And I talked a lot, like it was very much like a presentation as opposed to a class. In a class, to be honest, it's a lot more give and take with the group than online. And so there's basically the three main points that are on page 29 of the presenter's guide. And those were the basis of that was the basis of my presentation. I really tried to stay as close as possible to that for this exercise. And they're true for me. Like, I believe them. Now, in Mike's book, in the actual Infinite Possibilities book, there's a lot of talk, which I also agree with, on what are some universal beliefs or truths that resonate, that we are spiritual beings, that we, there's a whole bunch of it. I didn't bring the book here. But, there's some of those that you could go through if you really wanted. But the thing is, you could end up challenged by some of the presenter or by some of the guests or students in your class, because it's pretty early in the program to start telling them what the truth about life is. If you're not quite sure you know them yet and you don't know your audience. Thanks, Jennifer. Bye. And so you can have some challenges that are unnecessary And so I try to avoid that, to be honest. I really bring in the more absolute kind of stuff that I believe in. I bring that in a little later, and I tend to use examples that are in everybody's life, which is relationships, money, employment, or business or something, because most people do have that in their experience, whereas not everybody yet has the expanded consciousness of there's more to life than just what we see every day. So I'm cautious about that. That's my own choice. I live in a really small town, and I don't want to ruffle feathers and create distance or alienation. So I wait till the last week, and then I do that.
I'm very fortunate in covering that, in that my presentations are at Unity of Phoenix, which I automatically have a built-in audience for quickly going beyond and focusing on the last chapters of the workbook.
That's a blessing.
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
I'll attract that audience as well.
Yes. Any other questions for Angie? I do want to go over some trainer notes that I caught that I just want to highlight for everyone. Okay. So I loved, Angie, that you used the picture that you used in the opening of the airport line. And I love that you used that because it was a great visual that everybody can relate to that picture for the most part. And it really activated sort of some and you modeled it beautifully, but it activated some, everyday limiting and negative thoughts / beliefs. So it was a great way to open and get people immediately going into that place, especially because some of you might have noticed, I'm an IP trainer. I consider myself pretty positive, but as soon as I saw that list, I could immediately go into, I knew I should have gotten my TSA pre-check, we can immediately go there. So that was great. I also love that you have throughout so many great experiential activities, because experiential activities are how people take the concepts that you're talking about and immediately start applying them to themselves. The 10K one, that was awesome. Because those examples really started getting you thinking, oh, well, how did I respond to that question? And what were my hesitations? And that created that link for deeper inquiry. I also like that Angie also normalized experiences, which is really important that we all do when we're trainers, is that because people are going to respond differently in your audience, and you want to make sure that they feel comfortable and safe. And one of the ways you can do that is through normalizing. So she said, whether you were checking in and you feel really aligned, or, you noticed that there were some things that came up for you, like you made it so that whatever response was happening in the class, in the room, was fine. Trying to read my own writing here while I was scribbling. The surprise bill, and what would happen if you got a surprise bill or a surprise expense. I really liked that you modeled really specific and great examples of how to take, a sort of negative experience, but how to look at it in a positive way. So to create a more positive belief, and you listed them exactly, because sometimes we're so ingrained in the negative belief, we actually don't know how sometimes to turn it around. So it was great to see all of those really positive ones, but you didn't just leave it there. You then kind of went into, well, how can I work toward installing them? So that was excellent. I love that you added in your own personal story about the air flight manifestation. So by adding your personal story, and that one in particular, it was personal, of course, it really happened to you, but it was also inspiring, and but it was believable. Like, it wasn't so outrageous that we couldn't relate. And then I, of course, as a ritualist, loved all your ritual and experiential activities that you could do. And, I will say, because I teach a lot of things online, including ritual, you can do that online. You just have to prepare your class ahead of time with a lot of reminders and a lot of reminders and a lot of reminders, and also have a backup plan, but you can have people come to the call with a glass of water and Alka-Seltzer tablets or balloons. So you can, if you're only teaching online, don't think you can't do some experiential activities. You just have to put in the class that these are the items that you'll need for the class.
That's a good tip, Regina, actually, because I tend to not do that.
Yeah, you can definitely just have to have them bring it. And then you also, as a trainer, if somebody forgets, you don't want them to feel like they have messed everything up. So you would normalize their experience and give them some things they can do instead. And then I think this is my last trainer point. I loved that Angie really held loving space when Carolyn had a differing view. Like, she had a very differing view of that one statement. And so Angie held space. Angie heard her. She offered her thoughts on it. But I love, she said, I hear you. And just normalize that. There wasn't like, and I mean, I don't know because I wasn't inside Angie's head, but just knowing Angie as well, Angie didn't go to a place of, oh, she didn't see it the same way I did. Somehow it's not working. Like, she didn't go there. She just let what was happening and really allowed Carolyn to have her view, and also have that view, her explaining it, inevitably helped the class understand that version of hard work as well, and how that can be limiting. All right, those were
I almost removed that one from the list. And then I thought, okay, no, that's then I'm manipulating material that's not mine. So that one, it was a challenge for me. And I thought, okay, how do I really see that? So it forced me to rethink what hard work sounds like. When I read A Return to Love, I had to redefine my baggage around God. When everything, so sometimes that's actually those are good. And I hear her because I actually agreed with her.
Yeah, me too. Mm-hmm.
And yet I know that you have to sit down sometimes and just do the work.
Right.
So I see both, which is
right.
Yeah.
And I bring it up because we're going to have people, we can have people in the class who will, I absolutely do not see it that way, get it that way. No. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that they aren't getting it, or you're not doing a good job, or any of the things we could tell ourselves, our own limiting beliefs around our training.
Well, and I think what really helps is I'll share this really briefly. The first few times I taught, I depended on this more than my comfort level indicated. So because I was uncomfortable, I refer to this. But the truth is, this isn't really the way I teach or connect with people. So that actually became a barrier. This workbook became a barrier because I was going through the workbook to connect. And the truth is, I connect better this way with using this on the side of, hey, look at this. Hey, look at that. Instead of look at this and let me tell you about this. So I was viewing myself as a teacher, which I'm not. I'm not a trained teacher. And so I didn't have good familiarity with how to use this kind of stuff. I'm a facilitator. By training, I'm a facilitator. I'm a coach. I'm a people person. And so once you figure out your style and that sort of thing, then you realize that if you're there to facilitate an experience and not teach someone, and success means they get it, all of a sudden I'm facilitating a dialogue around this content. Then all of a sudden there's less attachment to whether or not they agree with me. And that made a really big shift. And once it was written in black and white, if they didn't agree with it, now there was a distance between the material and them, and there was a distance between me representing the material and them. And some of it isn't written exactly the way I might say it. So then there was that, strange, not disharmony, but the strange. So, in sort of conclusion, some of the wisdom I've had is it really sometimes how you frame, like how you decide you're going to be, what your mindset is in the room, and what you define as a successful day or successful training is, it kind of doesn't matter, because even if they only get 50% of it or part of it, or they become open, or they stay in the room the whole time, which some people don't, how you define what success looks like and what your role is in that dialogue is can really save a lot of grief, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, Angie, thank you so much for being our brave trailblazer to teach chapter 2. You were fabulous and excellent. And thank all of you for showing up and being part of the class. And I'm sure that if you have more questions, you can message Angie or post in the IPI chat or one of our Facebook groups, because probably the answer will benefit everyone. But thank you again. We're going to end the recording for time. But thank you, everybody. Thanks, Angie. And we'll see you next week at 8 o'clock Eastern. We're going to have Miriam, who's going to be calling in from Australia, is going to be teaching chapter 3 on emotions. So next Wednesday night.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
After you stop recording, can I share a little something that was really kind of fascinating?
Sure.